Hello, welcome to Star Wars Spelt Out. I'm your host, Josh Chapman, and today it's another one of those crazy episodes where it's someone who I should be in the room with, looking at face to face, but instead we're online, even though we're both in the same city. I'm looking at his beautiful background here. He's sitting on the floor of the Millennium Falcon right now. I don't know how he's managing that, but let's get him on. From Trial by Stone, the world's luckiest podcaster, Phil Mitchell. How you going, mate?
Yeah, I'm going good. And yourself, Josh?
Yeah, not too bad. Just getting through this second lockdown.
I know, 2.0. It's really happening. But yeah, it's I know the whole background thing. You know, we're all working from home, and it's been interesting. Like with all these companies like Skype and Zoom, you create your own sort of background things. So, yeah. So I thought for this one, I probably should do the Millennium Falcon. You know, some Star Wars themed, of course. Yeah. Of course, like with my Dark Crystal. When I occasionally do the live shows, I have something Dark Crystal-y sort of background as well. So yeah, no, it's all good fun.
Nice to go on brand, you know, for the show.
Yeah,
it's good,
exactly.
Good to pivot. You know, I wouldn't have minded if you put you put some Dark Crystal behind there. I would have accepted it. I would have allowed it.
Okay.
You know? It's all the same. The same wheelhouse.
Yeah. A lot of connections between the two. So yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, the old Lockdown 2.0. It's a bit like the. Do you remember the iSnack 2.0? Do you remember that when they tried to rebrand Vegemite?
Oh yes, I did. Yeah.
Now, was that for real, or was that just a stunt? That was never a real thing, though, was it?
I don't know. That's a really good question. Like, I kind of want to like Google it up just to like find out information.
Yeah. So anybody who doesn't know what that is, so
I know that was a legit.
Yeah, people
did.
Oh, you go, mate.
Oh no, I was just saying. Yeah, like, hang on. Yeah, no, it was a legit thing. Like, they did actually label it and called it, iSnack 2.0. 2.0.
Yeah, so Vegemite basically said that they're going to.
Long.
Yeah, they've got a new version of Vegemite, or they've got a new Vegemite, and they were going to call it iSnack 2.0. And people thought it was a joke, rightfully so. And I don't ever know if it was ever on the shelves or not. Whether it was just like a absolute, branding disaster or something, or whether it was just that whole let's do something so bad that we just get the attention and then we look great when we get rid of it. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I know. It's I was actually just saying, like, when it came out, it was like 2009. It's like 11 years ago. It's like, wow, like, geez, the time's gone so fast.
I never thought it would be iSnack 2.0 that made me feel old, but here we are.
I know.
So we should actually, while we're talking about getting old and time passing us by, it's a nice, good jovial start. Is that the big news this week was that all the Star Wars movies have been pushed back another year. So.
Yes, I did. So sorry, go ahead.
No, you go, man.
Oh yeah, no, it was just something. Yeah, I think it was like a couple of, was it yesterday or something? As we're recording it. I mean, yesterday they sort of dropped the news about all the Star Wars films being pushed back by a year. There was that, and of course Avatar, and quite a few Disney films. So yeah. I mean, it's a bit of a bummer. I mean, especially for people that. We're going to go, to Celebration in 22, sort of being like, oh, at least we've got a Star Wars film to look forward to. And now it's sort of like, it's kind of weird.
Well, it's really weird because if you do the dates, so the dates are funny because the next Celebration is in August 2022 now. So you were kind of going, and at the time when they announced that, and this was before they even moved the movies, I went, oh, that's a little bit weird that they didn't go a little bit earlier because, Rise of Skywalker Celebration was in April, so it's the perfect time to drop the teaser in April.
Totally, yeah.
And then I've gone, what are they going to show in August? Because if they show that, they're going to hold out the teaser that long, and it's too early for a final trailer. You're in this weird kind of middle ground.
Yeah, true, yeah.
Now it doesn't really matter so much. But the big thing is that they go, well, if 2023 is a movie year, do they have Celebration again the year after? And if they hit that trailer time, does that mean the Celebration 2023 is in April? So you've only got 10 months... 9 or 10 months between...
Yeah, planning,
Yeah, so you got 3 years now of no Celebration, and then they drop 2 in 10 months.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. It's crazy, yeah. I mean, I was really bummed about, with Celebration, because I was really considering going to Celebration this year. Bought the tickets at least, and...
Have you still got them?
No, I don't, no, because, because I only had booked the tickets. I didn't book the flights or hotels or anything like that. So I was sort of like, I bought the tickets and which, I mean, for me, it was probably the stupidest thing that I did was I didn't wake up, was it like 2 or 3 a.m. at our time to get those tickets. So it's like by the time I woke up like 7 in the morning thinking, oh yeah, they won't sell out. And then it's like pretty much like, I think by then Saturday was all sold out.
Yeah.
So I bought all the individual tickets and then got onto Light to get Saturday. So I know that like for me, that was like pretty stressful couple of months, just like, oh, am I going to get tickets to get into Saturday's celebration? But yeah, and sort of, everything that's been happening this year. And then, once they sort of, finally announced that they got cancelled and got pushed back for 2 years, I'm just like, I mean, I still want to come, but in 2 years time or whatnot, but I'm at the same time, it's like, I don't know where I'm going to be in 2 years, to be honest. So
yeah,
it's sort of like, it was a bit too far for me to think that far ahead to
to dream that far ahead. Yeah, look, I just let it roll over. I'm like, if I just
so you're gonna go, because I know I think Catherine, I think she's still going.
Yeah, she's still going. So we've got our little sort of crew that we went with last year. Yeah, and we've kind of gone through this whole process of writing the thing of getting the tickets, getting the accommodation, getting the flights, getting them cancelled. So we just got all our money back the other day for our Airbnb. So that's been fully refunded, which is good. So I think everybody's got pretty much their money back or their credit back for their flights and stuff. But I think the consensus is just to hold the tickets and just wait for it to roll. But if you have a change of heart, if you have a change of heart closer to, you might get lucky and stuff will pop up.
Totally,
and if you don't,
and I mean, like, and like for me, it's like if I like 2023 is probably. Like, I mean, I guess, like, for me, I'd probably go then just because, I mean, of course, the new movie to look forward to. But also been the 40th year of Return of the Jedi.
Oh, yeah, right.
Which is, like, definitely one of my favorite films, like, of,
It's got to be a given that it's got to be a given that they do it the year after. Like, it's...
Yeah.
It'll just be whether they hit that trailer date, the April date to hit that teaser trailer and bring it out, or whether they go a bit later. But even so, it'll be funny to go and then go, oh wow, all right, well we're coming back again in 10 months time. But we might, they could go to Europe, they could go to Asia, they could go, hey, we got a big convention center down here. Like, how about make it a little bit easier on us?
I know. I think I remember there was like that one time with Anthony Daniels, like he I think he said something like at celebrations, like, oh, wouldn't it be great to have a celebration in Australia? I can't remember. It might have been in Anaheim or Florida. I can't remember when he mentioned about that, which I thought that was like a pretty neat shout out.
He's just checking his holiday schedule. He's like, I want to go to the beach. I want to go somewhere with a nice beach or
the warm weather. Yeah.
Oh, they'd put in Sydney though, just to twist the knife a little bit. Like, look, I've still got to fly. I've still got to get accommodation. It's although if it was in Melbourne, it'd be weird though because like I've got a family and kids and things, and kind of going, do I just roll home late every night to my house after celebration, or do I just disappear for 4 days and stay somewhere else and go, like, you're not going to see me for 4 days. I'm in celebration mode. I'm just having fun with my friends for 4 days.
Totally, yeah.
Oh, look, it's so up in the air. We just got no idea.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah. So, no, it's going to be really interesting, like, the rest of the year. Like, I mean, with Star Wars, I mean, we definitely had a pretty good, like, start of the year with, the Clone Wars, and that was sort of, I mean, like for me, it's like I loved Clone Wars. Like, yeah, sure, like the first couple of seasons were a bit hit and miss, but then I think once it got through, I think halfway through season 3, that those stories and those arcs were like, wow, this is something else. Like,
So, what did you think of the new? Did you give the sort of the thumbs up to the new series?
For the new series of the
Clone Wars?
The new season. Yeah, no, I liked it.
Sorry.
It's all right. I mean, the only thing I didn't like was the sort of the Ahsoka walkabout, the Martez sister sort of arc. Like it was okay. But, like, I mean, it was nice that at least sort of, it sort of tied a little bit to that Siege of Mandalore thing. Yeah. But I'm like, 2 out of 3 is like, that's still pretty good in my books.
It's a bit harder when it's like, they go, hey, we're coming back for 12 episodes or 10 episodes, and you kind of go, oh wow, this is all you got. Like, like that. Obviously, those last 4, they absolutely threw everything at them.
They're definitely, yeah. And actually, like, straight after, like, watching that Siege of Mandalore, I actually, like, found, like, one of those fan edits of, there's someone who did this, like, fan edit of, like, Revenge of the Sith and intercutted it with...
Oh, right, yeah.
With that Clone Wars, a 2D show.
How did it work? Was it all right, or was it...
It actually worked out not too bad. It was like, I think it started with the Clone Wars 2D show, because you sort of had that whole... it was a little bit all over the place. I think it started with Clone Wars.
Yep.
And then...
because the 2D
really
show's
all
got
over the
them
place.
rescuing Palpatine, doesn't it? Or Palpatine gets kidnapped.
That's in the 2D so that
show,
was in the 2D
it?
one, yeah. So that was like the last, I don't know, like... couple of chapters, I think. That all that happened. And then you had Clone Wars, and then you had, we gotta go save Palpatine, and then you had Clone Wars, and then it was just it was actually a pretty decent like fan edit, which went for like 4 hours.
I was gonna say
it was really long. Yeah, I think I only watched like 2 hours. I'm like, all right, gotta have a break. I'll watch the rest, the other night. But it was kind of cool just to see that, how it would have been like, if you watched it all at.
They've really sort of well, they got this Bad Batch show now that they're doing as well. So if depending on, because they seem to be saying, that's going to take place straight after Order 66. So potentially you've got more stuff that you can just cut in, and you could put the Bad Batch in between that, depending on what they do.
Totally, yeah. I know that could work, yeah. That was really, I mean, I was really surprised about that. I thought, get into new characters, new stories. So that was a big of a surprise with that.
Yeah,
with that Bad Batch.
It was a bit for me too, but it made sense on paper. I think I brought this up last week on the show that, they've spent all the money bringing Clone Wars back. They've made all the models. Yeah. They've got all the computers ready to go. They've got all the assets. They're just like, hey, we can pretty much use 80% of this and make another show out of what we just spent to bring Clone Wars back. And totally. There's another series or two of content, bang, there you go. So, if they sort of get into the detail of what happens after Order 66 and the hand, like when do clone troopers end and stormtroopers start? Like, I reckon that'd be really fascinating.
Oh, totally, yeah.
If they just rock up one day and they're like, all right, you can get rid of that helmet, you can go stick that helmet on now, or all of a sudden it's not just clones, there's like, random dudes and
no, it'll definitely be really interesting to see, like, when it happens and just how it all unfolds. But I mean, having the Clone Wars assets sort of, it sort of makes sense. I'll keep making lots of animation projects, which I've actually been watching Star Wars Resistance, because I hadn't really watched. I think when it came out, I watched probably the first couple episodes, and then it sort of like disappeared. I'm like, I'm not, I'll probably binge watch them one day, sort of thing. But I got back to them. I'm like halfway through the first season, and it's like there's some hits and misses, but it's like it's actually not too bad. And actually, the animation is actually pretty good.
Are you watching on Disney Plus?
Yeah, on Disney Plus. Yeah,
is that in HD on Disney Plus?
Yes, it would be. Yeah. Because that was the thing. Like that was the thing I was waiting for ages with that show, was because season 2. Like, they only had the first season, but not the second season. And it took a while to bring out season 2 on Disney Plus. So once that came out, I'm like, okay, now I can, go and actually watch them, watch that whole story sort of thing.
You kind of get to the end of it. I won't spoil the ending of it for you, but it does feel like there's more story though. You know what I mean? Like I won't spoil it. Like, you get to the end, but you watch it, then you go like, oh, that was good. But you kind of go, oh, I want that. I just want that a little bit. Like, I want I must want the special episode to, a little bit more to come out to wrap it up a little bit more. But it's good. The season towards the end of the first series, it gets really strong. Like, it starts the closer it gets to Force Awakens. It
that's
really
the
picks
thing.
up.
Yeah, and I remember, like, because I did watch those random clips, in that scene. So I do know a little bit, like that sort of how it.
The Starkiller based stuff.
Yeah, the whole Hux's speech. That you got to see. So I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like, I kind of like that they're sort of, having those kind of connections, like with the sequel trilogy. So, it's like, it's been kind of fun to just watch them and just, so I'm really curious to see, to watch the show as a whole. And
yeah.
So that's been a lot of fun. Yeah.
Well, the good thing about animation is that, even in this COVID land, they can, they can just do it at home. Like, they could just sort of, crank these things out. But, because there was all this sort of stuff. So our friends, Corey and Noah from Kessel Run Transmissions, they were dropping a bunch of signs. They dropped the news about the Bad Batch, before anybody, so they got the cred off the back of that. And then this week they dropped that they heard on good authority that there's a Lando, that Donald Glover's coming back to play Lando on Disney Plus. So and I always thought that he would be like Donald Glover would be the one who you wouldn't be able to get. He's Childish Gambino. He's a mega star. Like I always thought he'd
too
be
big of a star.
get.
Oh, totally. No, which is really awesome. I mean, if it does, presuming it's going to happen for sure. Yeah. So I'm like that's really cool. And I actually did think about the other day about with Solo, a Star Wars story, and it's for me, I enjoyed it. I didn't mind it, but it does have if you with repeat viewings, I sort of enjoyed it a bit more and more. It's sort of a weird one with that.
I actually watched it. Yeah. I had a bit of time this week during the week. And just when all that Lando news came out, I was like, I haven't popped up Solo for a while. So I just chucked on Disney Plus when I was having lunch and just watched about the first hour of it and stuff. And I really enjoyed it. I'm just like, oh yeah, this is good. It just sort of it's just a nice, enjoyable film. It's not like it doesn't have a lot writing on it or anything. It's just, you kind of go, oh, that's cool. There's Chewie. I like Chewie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I did think about had them adapted Solo as a Disney Plus show, I think that would have been really interesting to see how they would have gone about it. Especially with the technology, from the that we got from the Mandalorian.
Yeah, do it
the whole
now.
Volume and it's just insane.
Just do it. I reckon that's it's kind of quite clever because if they do, you can use the star power, the Donald Glover star power to bring Lando back in, and Lando's probably more of a mystery than Han, so you can kind of take him places, and then you could, if you need to, you can just cut Han back in. And if people are like, oh, it's Han, then you spin Han off later. You kind of use that.
Oh, totally.
I think if you go, hey, we're going TV for Solo, people were like, oh, yeah, we kind of saw that movie and, it was fine and blah, blah, blah. Or it's got the stink on it that it didn't do as well. But you kind of, like you said, you pluck Lando out. People love Lando. People love Donald Glover. And use him as a springboard. I mean, they must have driven a dump truck of money up to Donald Glover's house and just...
Totally, yeah. So no, that's going to be really interesting. And I just be more curious about who'll be involved with the show actually. Whether it's going to be Jon Favreau or whether it's going to be
or whether they specifically bring in some sort of African American directors and stuff specifically for Lando.
I think that'd be great.
His name's escaped me. The bloke, with the guys who was the director on Mando. I've forgotten his name, but there was you could get him to do the whole thing. Rick Famuyiwa, I think it is Famuyiwa. He did a great job on Mando. Give him the Lando series, which would be awesome. So, more content, the more the merrier. So I think the sting of going, oh, no Star Wars for 3 years, Star Wars movie, but you go hey man, you're going to get shows every year, you're going to get animation every year. Yeah, it's not exactly as bad as it used to be.
No, it's I'm just really curious how it's all going to schedule out. Once you've got, you got the Mandalorian that's going to be in October or later this year, and then what's going to come after? Whether there's going to be a schedule where it's there's going to be something Star Wars every week, where it's Mandalorian and then Bad Batch, and then after Bad Batch, whether it's the Cassian and then Obi-Wan and then Lando and
well, they've got that Marvel stuff they're going to cut in too, But the thing is, it's everything's on hold at the moment because of this COVID thing. So productions are pushed back, but as soon as everybody wants to come flying out of the gates because it's people are going to be hungry for new shit. So as soon as the green light and they can start filming and get stuff out, people, all of those big streaming things are going to want stuff because they're going to, people are going to be hungry for new content. And at the same time, their lives will be more busy. They're not going to have time to just binge everything. So they're going to like, hey, we've got to have good stuff, because if Netflix has a whole bunch of awesome stuff and our stuff isn't quite as awesome, they might go, hey, look, I can't pay for 2 streaming services now because I'm not home as much. I don't need it. I haven't got 10 hours a day to binge when I'm just sitting around in my underpants doing nothing. Yeah. So it's good. So I think the us, the consumer, will be the winners. Now,
yes, it is a win-win,
Now let's talk about your podcast. Now, when I started this, I did call you the world's luckiest podcaster, because you just decided to start yourself a podcast about the Dark Crystal. What happened just after you did that, mate?
So, I mean, I've been doing the podcast, I think since 20... I'm really trying to think of the years, because I been doing it for quite a while, that it's sort of like I've sort of lost track of like how long I've been doing it for.
You've been in so deep.
I know. But I think it was I don't know whether it was 2014 or I know it's one of these things I'm like, I really should know like when I actually started it.
So let's be a little bit fair. It's not like you started the week before something happened, but you know.
No. So like I mean I've been doing this podcast for quite a few. Here we go. There we go. I know sorry, I had to like look up on my Podbean website just to scroll down.
You had to Google yourself just to get some info.
Exactly.
Check your own Wikipedia page.
Yeah, so 2014. Yeah, August 2014.
It's anniversary time nearly then.
Yeah, it would be actually. Yeah, it'd be the 6.
Yeah.
Geez, 6 years. So yeah, and it was at a time when like Jim Henson Company, they were trying to bring Dark Crystal back, and they had this author quest, for a chance of someone to write a Dark Crystal prequel novel, young adult novel, kind of book. And so my first episode was just interviewing the author, because I'm like, I love Dark Crystal, and I'm like, and actually, always sort of wanted to do a Star Wars podcast, but then by then there were so many Star Wars podcasts. I'm just like, I want to do something a little bit different. And then, Dark Crystal, I'm like, why not? It's sort of, like doing the podcast back then was like, at least we had something to look forward to. Like we had this young adult novel, and then I think the comics as well. That was sort of, we're waiting for, I think, volume 3 of,
so there was stuff. It wasn't just like, oh man, there's just this one movie, and then once I've maxed out everything I can talk about the movie, I'm going to have to start. You could have done that, like, how they do those like minute by podcast movie, like Star Wars Minute, where they every episode they watch like 1 minute of the movie or something like that. Like that could have got me through if I had to.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I actually did attempt a Dark Crystal Minute podcast, but I only got, I think, through the first 20 minutes, and it was a lot of, but by then, like with the Age of Resistance show, it just sort of, we had to put that on hold, essentially.
Like so,
stuff. So 2014, I started the podcast. Things were sort of coming out, like with the books and whatnot. But then, it was like in 2017, when out of the blue they announced that Netflix and Jim Henson Company announced that they were doing a 10-episode Dark Crystal prequel series, all puppets, Age of Resistance. It's going to come out in 2019, and just my mind was pretty blown. Like,
and then one day you're just checking your downloads and like, things are coding along nicely, and then all of a sudden, Dark Crystal, everyone's talking Dark Crystal, and bang.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And just like waking up in that morning and just I just sort of lost, and even tried to do like a Facebook Live, and just try to make sense of it all. I'm like, it was just. It was just such a surreal.
Must be similar
kind of
to
thing
like
for it to happen. Out of all the franchises, that Dark Crystal, it's always just been this one film, and they've been trying to do trying to get a sequel movie for such a long time. It's sort of it was going to happen, and then didn't, and then almost did, and then it didn't, and so they've been trying to do something for a long time. But then once Netflix is like, we want to do it, but with puppets. That really changed everything, especially with the podcasts. Like, it sort of opened up so many people that I can interview who've like worked on the show, and even had like Haley Stanford, one of the executive producers on the show, came on the podcast. So it's been pretty cool. So
that's awesome.
And talking with puppeteers, and so it's been a lot of fun.
So were you were you like a Muppets kid? Is that how it all started, or was it like you just saw Dark Crystal and got into it, or did you sort of go from like your Muppets, your Fraggles, Labyrinth, Dark Crystal, Star Wars?
I think it was really Star Wars, because like I think the one thing I loved about the puppets is Yoda. I mean, like Yoda's definitely one of my favorite characters ever, and I think from that. And like I grew up, of course, like with Sesame Street, and but I mean, it was weird with the Muppets because with the Muppets, I didn't
because they were always like on pay TV.
Oh, no,
Really?
not too young, but I didn't really had access to the Muppet Show because I think they were only on pay TV, you know, on that.
So I just tell you by young, like when I was, 'cause I'm a little bit older than you, not too much older, but like when I was a kid, the Muppets were on TV, like they were on Channel 10. Like the Muppet Show was on like Saturday night, Channel 10, so we would see the Muppet Show on telly. So that was like Muppets were big for me because it was on. Like we had Sesame Street, but like you know Sesame Street was great when you were 4, but then the Muppets like when you're 9 is where it's at. You know, because it's mayhem. You know, that's what you want.
Yeah. See, like I was born in '87, so
you're a young
buck. Yeah, so like the only way to watch Muppets was you had to have a pay TV like on Galaxy as it was called, you know, before Foxtel.
Yeah, right. That's gone back.
And so like I had very little exposure to the Muppets. And I mean, I watched a couple of the Muppet films, but never really like most of the shows or movies that we get were just recorded off the VHS. You know, You know,
so did you know the connection? Button. Like, you know. Did you know the connection from Muppets and Star Wars and Dark Crystal? Did all of that straight away? Or that kind of like, as you got more interested, you're like, oh, it's all the same thing or related?
I think probably growing up, like towards, you know, primary to high school, I think, you know, that sort of make that connection. Oh, okay, well, this is Jim Henson. You know,
Fozzie sounds a lot like Yoda.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, with Frank Oz and all that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, like as a kid, like, I don't think I even thought about like that Dark Crystal was anything to do with the Muppets, which it is in a way because it's such like a crazy film. Like, you know, with like it's all just creatures. And it's like, you know, they're not like caricatures or like, you know, it's pretty like heavy stuff like genocide and, you know, all like all those
terrifying.
Kind of things.
Let's address the elephant in the room here. The Dark Crystal is terrifying, and it was terrifying when I was a kid, and I have gone back, and it is still terrifying.
It's still like, you know, things like as a kid, just scared the heck out of me. Like with like. Even like Olgra or just the Skeksis and the Gartham, those crab-like creatures, like they always like scared me. But I think just like with Dark Crystal, it's just like because there's just nothing else like it, and probably the only thing that comes close to it is you know, I mean, with Star Wars in a way, like, you know, with all the puppets and all that kind of stuff. But with Dark Crystal, it's like it's all puppets, it's no humans, and it's such like a big ambitious like film that Jim Henson never did, and you know, was just very unique, you know, his own sort of, you know, thing, and it was just one of those films where I just watched it just on the VHS, and I think my parents must have recorded it, and I think so it was always interchangeable with Dark Crystal and Star Wars, like you know. And I remember especially like as a kid, like loving Return of the Jedi, you know, with the Ewoks and of course all the puppet
like
you know,
Jabba's
creatures
palace
essentially,
kind of thing.
Jabba's palace. And also, and even like the Death Star, you know, the Battle of Endor, like that whole last half hour, I just, you know, that's like I just wanting to just watch Return of the Jedi just to watch that part as well. But you know, but Jabba's palace was like pretty neat as well. So
so. Like when you see something like Mandalorian comes out, and you know, same as all of us, we have no idea like what they're hiding in that thing. So when you're watching Mandalorian and that baby Yoda turns up, like, do you get a special? Can you straight away go, "That's a freaking puppet"? Like, do you go, "Oh my god, totally, baby Yoda," or do you go, like, "Oh my god, that's a freaking puppet," or both?
Probably a bit of both. But yeah, I mean, just that it was a puppet, and I mean that was such a great surprise. Like, you know, that they could have easily been spoiled, you know, through merchandise and whatnot. So I think that's all credit to John Fav for
it's crazy
for pulling that off.
I brought this up with when I had David Strutt on last week, and watching those. I assume you've seen the making of the Mando ones.
The Disney galleries.
Gallery column, The Mandalorian. But it's just crazy that Baby Yoda's just on set everywhere, and it didn't get out. You know what I mean? Like, it didn't leak. Well, I thought maybe, they had like a sack or something, like a green sack that was a stand-in, and they're going to CG him in later and blah, to keep the secret. But he's just around everywhere. Unbelievable that nobody spoiled that.
And then especially like all these like little kids, I think in episode was it episode 4? That
the one that Bryce Dallas Howard did.
Yeah. So no, that was and again, like, that was like that was a great show, Mandalorian. Like, they did a really good job. So I'm like, just so excited for what's going to happen in season 2. Whatever that may be.
So let's just pivot back around to Dark Crystal. So when
of course,
they go, right, we're making a new series, Dark Crystal, it's coming to Netflix. What's that look like for you, that opening night? Are you like, do you have to get up at a certain time in the morning? You're setting your alarm? Are you, dimming the lights? Are you like, did you find out as much as you could going in? Were you kind of, do you go spoiler free, or how does that work? Do you have to try to find out as much as you can?
They did. Netflix, they did a pretty good job. Like, they didn't really post really anything about the show till I think it was like in late December 2018. And that was like when they showed the first sort of images of the 3 Gelfling characters with, was it Rian, Deet, and Breya?
Yep.
But there might be, because we had some that work on the show that are, in the Dark Crystal fan groups. So, but I don't. They said, I'm working on the show, but I can't say anything, that sort of thing. So
people love to say that they can't say something, don't they?
I know. But this is one thing I can. I've talked about this on my podcast, but I can talk to you about it. But it was actually April last year. I went to the US because I was wanting to go to the Center for Puppetry Arts in Atlanta, because they had a Dark Crystal exhibition.
Nice.
All the puppets from the original film, and I wanted to go check it out before they stopped the exhibition, and I stopped over at LA, and because I wanted to catch up with my co-host Jamie, and I told Henson Company, I'm like, hey, I'm gonna be in LA, for these days. Is there a chance I can come over and see you guys, sort of thing? And so it kind of made it work to make it happen, and I got to meet some of the people like Haley Sanford and the writers on the show, and so that was like pretty neat to see them. And
so, are you just getting Kermit's email address and emailing Kermit? Yeah. Like, how does that work? Are you just googling, like, is that just an email address you happen to have, or you just like call the front desk, or is that just contacts through doing the podcast?
It was like I just contacted the PR lady about it, and because once the show was announced, then I'm like, I need to contact them. I need to let them know that there's this Dark Crystal podcast
we
out
exist.
there, and
we're ready.
All that kind of
We've
stuff.
been waiting for this moment.
Exactly, yeah. So no, it was pretty cool, and but like they couldn't show us anything. Like, there was a moment where they were going to show it. Like, they could have showed us something, but they didn't. But like, it was still a great day. But then, funnily enough, like, we're about afterwards we had lunch, and then me and Jamie, and then we went to the Warner Brothers studio tour, and like, we had a pretty good time. We were about to go home, and then we actually get a message from the director, Louis Leterrier, and then he's like, hey, I heard you guys in LA, reach out to me.
Nice.
and so we got in contact with him, and then we he pretty much invited us to go over to his place.
Oh, wow.
This is back in April 2019, so it's like I got to meet him and his wife, Cameron, and the kids.
What are you expecting when you go there? Are you just expecting a normal person's house? Are you expecting like puppets hanging from the roof kind of thing, or like?
No, I don't know. I don't.
House.
Like, it was just a lot of nerves, essentially. I'm like, oh, goodness, we're meeting the director of this show, and just like we just didn't know what was going to happen, really. So, but we just had a chat, and he was able to show us some stuff, so sort of gauging our reactions and stuff, and And like one of the things that he did show, I don't know if you've seen the show.
Yeah. I've watched.
Yeah,
I'll be honest. I haven't watched. I've got about 2 to go.
Oh, okay,
I'm
cool.
close to
Well,
the end.
I mean, yeah. So like, I mean, he showed us like a very rough cut. Oh, it was almost pretty much like it was almost final. Like it was definitely a version of the scene, I think, towards the end of episode 2, where that scientist character Skektek and he gets his eye removed, sort of thing.
Yep.
Yeah, the last couple of minutes of that. So
Is that the one that Hamill plays?
Yes, yeah, that he voices. Yeah. And because I mean, this was before we didn't even knew who were doing the voices or anything like that. So that was like a couple months later they announced it, and like so I mean, and that was like one of the scenes that we watched, and then like afterwards when we said goodbye and whatnot, and we're just like Jamie and I, we were pretty blown away with like it was like we couldn't tell anyone about it, and it wasn't like till we got closer to the show, and then it's like okay, we can sort of talk about it.
So is that just weird, just watching
experience.
Like, is that just weird watching something that's so, because the thing is, it's so, I guess it's kind of in a way, it's similar to something like Force Awakens, more so than the prequels, where it's so familiar, but it is modernized. Like it's shot using, newer cameras, and it's a bit more digitally enhanced in places, but it still looks like it triggers those things. You know what I mean? Like I go, that's a Skeksis, and that's a Gelfling, and that's a, that's all this, like, do you look at it and go like, oh, they've done it. Like, there it is. It's like new Dark Crystal stuff. It looks just like it.
Yeah. No, they just knocked it out of the park. I mean, like, it was just such a big, ambitious show. Like, I mean, Netflix, really, they were crazy to sort of make this show about, all these puppets and creatures and all that kind of stuff. But, like, everyone, like, they just knocked it out of the park. And it's one of those things where it's like, it could have gone wrong, but like it didn't, and for the most part, it's like it's brilliantly well done, and they sort of stayed true to the original film, but sort of had a bit of that modern edge to it. But even like even though there's of course digital effects and whatnot, but it blended in really well. That you don't notice it. So
well, it's just all you still focuses on. Like you still go, like I still look at it and go, oh, it's a puppet, but it's amazing. Like, but it doesn't detract. I kind of go, well, it still feels real. It's crazy, isn't it? Because it's like you're just talking about going, they tried to get a sequel done, they tried to do this, they tried to do that. Like, if without something like Netflix that's just got like that platform and that kind of money, like it just couldn't exist in any other way. You couldn't just go. What's the same? Even the same with Mandalorian. Like, you've just gone. There's no way that a normal television station or whatever television network would go, let's just make this thing and put this up on TV. Like, could you imagine watching it with commercial breaks? Like, could you imagine having to watch even like Mandalorian with commercials in it? Just like, it'd just be so, it just wouldn't be right, would it? It'd just be so weird.
It wouldn't. No. And especially like, with like Dark Crystal, it's just like, you're just in that world, like, for a good hour, and just totally immersed, and just those commercial ads can just take you right off.
So how'd you go when you watched it? Did you sit and watch the whole thing in one sitting? Because it's like, you got the whole thing. Did you kind of go, I'm going to get up at 8 a.m, I'm going to sit here all night, day, and watch it? Or how did it go?
So, I mean, that was a cool, the good thing, like, I guess with us is all our shows, all the Netflix shows came out, I think 7 o'clock on Fridays. Mm-hmm. Whereas around the world, I think like in LA, it's midnight. So people that'd be binge watching it. That they might even do the 10 straight hours, which well done to them if they did. But no, for me, Friday night I watched the first. I think I did first three episodes, I think, and then on Saturday I did like 3 in the morning, and then 3 in the afternoon, sort of thing. So Saturday was just like a full day, essentially. And then it was just so much to take in, really. Like, with that show, it's like even after watching the show and then trying to let's go record a podcast right now, that sort of thing. But we're all just still so stunned, and we're just sort of speechless, sort of thing, like with that show.
Do you get to a point there where you're crazy. Like, oh man, I almost don't want to spoil it. Like, I want to savor it. I don't want to watch all of the, like sometimes I'm watching a series here with my partner, or watching something, and it's really good, and you go, oh, we've only got like we just finished What We Do in the Shadows, the TV show of that, which is really good, which is the TV show of the movie. And we've been going through that, but we got to a point where you might watch 2 or 3 a night, and we're just going, we've got to stop this because we don't we're going to be gone. Like there's only 10 episodes in this series, and then they're done. Like you got to savor it.
No, I mean, actually today I actually just finished watching season 1. Like I watched like the first I don't know 7 or 8 episodes like ages ago. I just never got around to finishing watching the rest, and sort of got through to 9 and 10 today. So such a great show. So I'm actually looking forward to watching season 2 because I think most of the episodes are out now. So pretty neat.
So is there going to be another series of Dark Crystal Age of Resistance, or is it looking like it's one and done, or is it just...
it's still up in the air. Like it's kind of weird because normally they, like with Netflix, they really determine the show based on how well it does the first 28 days.
Yep.
But the fact that like the numbers hadn't been released or anything on how well it went, like all I know is that
they're not kind of showing off, going, we've broken records. We're the new
I
Stranger
know.
Things.
We've had so many million people watching it. But I do know. I think they did do like the end of year 2019, and I think Dark Crystal was number 4 in the top 10. Children's TV show. That's Netflix original series sort of thing. So I'm like, that is pretty good. Like considering you would have had I think it was like Lost in Space, which was I think number 2 or 3, and some of like Fuller House and I think some other show. Sorry, I just for some reason Siri was
Siri's chiming in.
Yeah,
Siri's like, I'd love another season of Dark Crystal.
Age of Resistance. Yeah, sorry about that.
Hey Siri, get some of that Apple money involved, and
I know. But yeah, I mean, we still haven't heard anything. But I don't know. We're sort of feeling like it's sort of getting to a point where it's like, it might only just be a one and done season, which would be a bit of a bum because
well, they've made everything too. Like all the puppets exist in the sets, and you feel like it might be slightly cheaper to do now because you don't have to build everything again. But
exactly, and I mean, like right now, like they could at least just get into the writing essentially, like write out, get those the next 10 or so episodes all written out. But I just haven't heard a thing at all. So it's so I don't know like if we're ever going to get another season. Like I think I'd just be really surprised if it did. So sort of a wait and see, but just the fact that we haven't heard anything, and I know sort of the COVID thing that's sort of really pushed things a lot more.
It's all up in the air, isn't it? Like, do you?
It really is.
I mean, do you feel like the art of? I mean, do you think that the art of puppetry is in a resurgence now? Anyway, off the back of like Star Wars making a point that they use a lot of practical stuff now, and not even stuff like Mandalorian going, we still want to use the puppets. We don't want to rely on CG for everything. Like, it kind of feels like there's always going to be a place for them now, really. Like, people respond to it so strongly, don't they?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. It's pretty cool with, like, sort of puppets, like, coming back now. And, you definitely got that with Star Wars, especially the sequel trilogy, sort of, pushing that a little bit. And then, then Dark Crystal, and, of course, of the Mandalorian. So it's going to be really interesting. And even I think like even Henson's is sort of they've been doing they're bringing back Fraggle Rock for Apple TV, so it's like it's definitely in the interest of of demand essentially, or that sort of thing. So it's been pretty cool. Like digital works well, but it's like if you can make a way to either make a puppet or just have it there on the set, just makes a big difference.
Yeah, for sure. I always respond really strongly to when I see puppets and stuff. And even if it's, usually it's obvious it's a puppet. Well, one, because it's not something that is a person, so it's either a guy in
Yeah.
a suit or a puppet or whatever. But I like that. I love the puppets, like you're saying, Return of the Jedi and stuff like that. And I always find the special editions when they replace the puppets with the the CG ones a bit of a bit grating. I'm just like, just leave them. They're fine.
Yeah, I know. It was so weird because like I watched the two scenes because I hadn't watched them for quite a while, or maybe a year or two or whatnot. But yeah, it's just so interesting, like why George went ahead to do that Jedi Rock thing. It's just like, spending that good couple of $1 million just with this scene that goes for a minute, or a little bit over a minute. Like I even like compared the difference in time, and it's like it's about a minute long, and like like Lap to Your Neck, like it is a very 80s sort of song sort of vibe. So trying to modernize it. So maybe I can kind of get that, but I'm just like, it's, it was of its time sort of thing. So,
yeah, but I mean, like, Sliced Noodles is clearly just taped to that microphone, and she's kind of just rocking, like the puppet one's just
rocking back and forth.
On it, but it's still just like, well, it still looks more real than the other. Like, it still feels more convincing than the other one, which is sort of, it's got that late 90s CG. Like, obviously, if they did another version, you could do it so she looked completely real and stuff, but I feel like if they did it, they'd just go back to the puppet and just make the puppet look a little bit more less janky. But
absolutely, yeah. Though I mean that thing about that special edition, I mean I actually did like the end of it, like when the Twilight, when she's about to get in, just her reaction, before getting eaten, by the Rancor. So I'm like, oh, that was kind of a neat thing, like especially being the same actress, I think, who played in the original in the original Return.
That's a good call to get.
Yeah. So no, that's I mean, I think it's still probably one of the least liked changes.
Take it a little personally, just like, hey,
but you got the Han shoots first, or Greedo shoots first sort of thing. So, but that's a whole other
we've got all day to start getting into that. Oh my god,
I know,
it's crazy to start talking about that. So do you like do you sort of pour over the behind the scenes stuff as much as possible, like a good behind the scenes documentary? And is there a making of is the Dark Crystal one got a making of on Netflix as well?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, it's called The Crystal Coals. And actually, I just interviewed the guy who did the documentary, who directed it, Randall. So and like that was like a brilliantly, like they did a pretty good job actually with the documentary and being able to interview like the Frauds who created sort of the world, and then had new voice actors, like you had Taron Egerton and people who worked on the show, and just going through the whole process of the show, and even like just to the extent of like using sort of matte paintings as part of the sets sort of thing. So like that was like so sort of keeping that old school approach with a few things here and there, or try and do things as practical as possible. But yeah, I mean there was a documentary like for the original film as well, and that was really good. But yeah, like I was just trying to think, like with Star Wars, like I mean I guess like for me, I always been into filmmaking and that, went to film school and stuff. So I loved like the was it the Empire Dreams? Trying to think what else. I mean, episode 1, the beginning,
which is great. It's just
it is the best. Like it's just so many great moments, like especially like George, like in that storyboard.
Oh yeah,
he's like, this one's green screen, that's digital. And then he gets the wrong colors, and it's just,
and all the guys just freaking out. They just don't make. They just like the documentaries that have come, with Force Awakens, Last Jedi, Rise of Skywalker, have all been pretty good, but there is that level of sort of. You're not really seeing the whole, you're not seeing the whole
like,
thing.
Yeah, those documentaries, sort of playing it a bit safer.
Yeah, and when you watch, same with the Mandalorian one, and then I'd mentioned this previously, the Frozen 2 one, which is on Disney Plus now, which is the making of Frozen 2, and I have a 5-year-old and nearly a 2-year-old, so Frozen is where it's at, that is really, really good. Like, even if you don't really care about Frozen, just because it's... No. Like episode 1, it's like in the production meetings, warts and all, like them freaking out because stuff's not working, or scrap this song, bring this song in, bring these people back in. We got to fix this scene. We got to do this. We got to do this. It's excuse me. it's
That's right.
that's what you really like. That's what I want on my Star Wars ones. Like I really want that.
Yeah.
I want to see the struggles and like. Could you imagine what that Rise of Skywalker one could have been like? Like, hey,
Totally,
we sacked our writer. 2 years, 18 months, 2 years before the thing. We went crawling back to J.J. Abrams to try and get a movie out on this release date and
try and break down a story.
Yeah, try to get like
we got to bring back Palpatine.
Bring back Palpatine. Like, how are we going to sell that?
Yeah.
So what's the plan for the podcast going forward then? Is it just sort of we'll keep on rolling until we're looking forward to season 2 of Age of Resistance, or are we going to just keep dreaming for the next thing?
I mean, still hoping that it happens. It's sort of things are up in the air, but I mean things are still like the podcast has still been pretty busy. Like I'm still releasing content every week and having interviews like people who've worked on the show. And of course, the 1 year anniversary is going to be at the end of August. So, there's sort of been plans for sort of like a throw-a-thon, sort of like a marathon sort of event of, getting people to watch the show again. So we're sort of, that'll be our sort of our little celebration, like with the with the podcast and with all the Dark Crystal, Facebook groups and all the communities that are out there. So,
is there like a name for a collective? Is there a collective name of Dark Crystal fans? Like, is it like the Trekkers or anything? They don't have a name?
Yeah, I know that there isn't actually one. I know, like, if I had to think of like Thrarians, but no, there isn't. Yeah, I don't think that we've come up.
You haven't quite got one yet.
No, I think someone came up with crystallizers. So there's been a couple of pitches here and there, but yeah, there hasn't been something that's really like
galvanized
stuck.
And everybody's like, "Oh, that's the
exactly,
one."
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like, with Dark Crystal, I mean, we were finding out whatever happens to the show. Like, I mean, we've been getting at least the comics, and we got some books that are going to come out like later in the year. So it's like we actually got at least a couple of things to look forward to, and still just got our fingers crossed for season 2.
Well, I hope so. It's always good to get new stuff, especially the stuff that you're into. And, Star Wars isn't going anywhere. They're going to keep churning that out for as long as they can. And, it has its ups and downs and its bumps in the road like everything else. But, like you kind of got the impossible, really. It was a movie that was 25 years old or longer or nearly 30 years old that people thought was buried. They tried to bring it back. Nothing happened. And then you needed some crazy Netflix money to bring it back. Yeah. So hopefully it comes back. And I watched it and really enjoyed it. And it's just one of those things where you get distracted and you haven't gone back and finished it. But I'm like talking to you, I'm like, oh man, I've just got to watch the last couple episodes and remember what happens.
You have to, yeah.
But I definitely
really
will.
Good. Yeah.
Now, we've talked all about the podcast, but before we wrap up, where exactly can they find it? Where exactly can they find you?
Yeah, so the best way of probably finding me is, we have a website, so darkcrystalpodcast.com.
Nice.
So we got that, and social media is sort of Facebook is Dark Crystal Podcast, and Twitter is @DarkCrystalPod, because, that's the only character limit you can get.
You go D Crystal Podcast or Dark Crystal Podcast, or you got to figure out what word you got to sacrifice.
Instagram's Dark Crystal Podcast. So I think if you just Google up Dark Crystal Podcast, you're gonna find the Trial by Stone, and that's where we're at. And we've got podcasts coming out every week, and just it's just been fun. Like, we've just been doing a lot of character discussions on some of the main characters from the show, and having interviews in between, and doing book discussions in the mix as well. So there's been a lot of like Age of Resistance has just like opened up like a lot of content. Then
there was so much content that the gesturing just knocked a bottle over nearby, and that was.
I know exactly. Yeah. I was so excited.
I know, is he too excited?
Super expression mode,
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, it's always good to talk to you, mate. Last time we caught up, we were in person, and hopefully, when this all ends, we can catch up again properly and have a beer and chit chat and pick up where we left off. And there might be more stuff to talk about. So we'll definitely get you back on.
Definitely, yeah.
So that's about it for the pod, really. Thanks everybody for listening. You can catch us at StarWarsSpeltout.com. We'll keep on going till There's a new movie in 2023. I just keep going. Oh, they pushed
3 more years
Celebration
to go,
back. Now they've
people.
booked the movies back. Like, thank God we've got these shows. Like, if there was no shows, I feel like the podcast would probably be on hiatus for 2 years. I'd be, parking it for a bit and then bringing it back. But luckily, I don't have to worry about that. Awesome, Phil. Thanks a lot, mate.
No, thank you.
And I'll see you later.